Homeland Security is still in the headlines today with all the news about fingerprinting of foreign travelers and Osama bin Laden resurfacing on audio tape. The White House says it's all further evidence the war on terrorism continues, but declines to say how much longer it intends to keep the nation at threat level orange or high. To some critics, it begs the question of whether it makes sense to keep the whole nation on alert, even in cities not mentioned as possible targets. A RAND study says some local governments are cutting back on spending on needed programs in order to pay for that added security. So is the threat level system too blunt an instrument? It's our tough call today. Joining us is James Carafano from the Heritage Foundation and Ivan Eland from the Independent Institute in Oakland, California. It's good to have both of you with me. James, let me start with you here. We've obviously had a lot of developments in the last couple of days with this threat alert and some changes in airport procedures. Are we needlessly scaring too many people?
Well, I think the threats are certainly credible, and the government should be taking precautions. They should be informing people. But I agree that the National Threat Alert System is a really blunt instrument. Dan Gray, a security analyst, said it right. He said, you know, we have a better system for rating movies. I mean, we really need something that's much more appropriate for alerting the public on what's going on.
Dr. Eland, what kind of things would be appropriate then, if not this? Any guesses?
Well, I think we're giving more information to the terrorists with this alert system than we are to the public. Our message to the public is basically be alert and keep shopping so the economy won't go south. And I think, very frankly, we could do this more privately with just messages in between law enforcement agencies, the federal government, if they pick up intelligence, to a local region or state or city that might be affected by the intelligence, rather than spinning up the whole country. I mean, what is a farmer in Iowa, how can he help the Los Angeles airport detect terrorists? I think, we have a vast country and we're spinning up the whole country for no reason, and the public really doesn't know what to do at orange or yellow or any other color.
James, let's follow up on that comment that we try to get information out privately. Wouldn't that then make the government vulnerable to criticism should something happen? People could say, hey, you didn't let us know ahead of time. Well,
I think the system works well on the federal level, where you're talking about mobilizing national resources, getting more Coast Guard guys, Customs guys out. It's problematic at the state and local level where they don't know what to do. Often they do nothing because they don't have a specific threat. But it's really problematic among people. And what we ought to do is it's very simple. We ought to adopt a very simple system. We ought to tell people what we can, when we can, and let them make decisions on how to live their lives.
Dr. Eland, let's talk a little bit, too, about the cost factor, which always comes up in this discussion here. It's costing communities a lot of money to increase security for a threat they might not be sure what they're increasing for.
That's right. It's a tremendous waste of money to increase the security levels in other parts of the country when the intelligence may affect different parts of the country. And I think one of the things that you just hit upon with your comment was that this allows the federal government to show that they're doing something about the problem. That's the whole point. I mean, the government doesn't want to be kept caught flat-footed if there's an attack. So we see that this is a political system. We never go to red because that would panic everybody and nobody would shop, or we don't go to blue and green because if the attack happens, the government gets blamed for not being on high enough alert, and also going down to one of the two lower alert levels might encourage the terrorists to attack in the first place. So we have a political system that's toggled between yellow and orange, which are the mid-range levels.
James, question for you on some of the developments we're seeing here today now, this new intense screening at airports. Does it beg the question, why didn't we do that before? Why do it just now?
Well, actually, to have this system has actually been in law for several years. The federal government just never basically gave the INS enough money to implement it. So it's actually something that's been a requirement for several years now. But I think the important thing is the U.S. visit program, recording everybody that comes in and out of seaports and maritime ports, and eventually land borders as well, is not the be-all and end-all. It's not a panacea. It's only one small piece of what's got to be a comprehensive system.
Dr. Eland, let's follow up on that. Is what we're seeing now being implemented a step in the right direction, do you think?
No, I don't think so, because we often do to foreigners and immigrants what later happens to Americans, and I think we need to be careful. The government many times takes for show measures which don't add much to security, meanwhile neglecting other things like air cargo, which is a big problem, cargo which is put on passenger jets. On an air-related matter, we have only about 20% of the containers coming into the country get inspected. So, these vast areas are left unprotected while we go after immigrants and foreigners. And I think we saw after 9/11 where 5,000 people were rounded up and actually mistreated, and we only had 3 of them related to were arrested for terrorism. So I think we need to be careful with these vast sweeps which sweep in foreigners.
Dr. Ivan Eland and James Carafano, thanks for joining me as we make the tough call on our color-coded alert system. Appreciate it, gentlemen. And that wraps it up for Marker Call today. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.